Thank you, Anthony. Why don't I start with that? Well, inclusivity first. It's something very passionate for me and my family. My father comes from Indian descent, and my mother's from Chinese descent. My wife is Malay. I'm a Muslim. My dad's a Hindu. My mom's a Buddhist. My sister's a Christian. So, for us in our family, we're very much multicultural, multiracial, multi-religious as well. And that's why, for us, we've always lived and hope to live in a world where everyone is included. And there are no divisions or no segregations or no prejudices. So that's why, for us, we try to fight for inclusivity wherever we can because it's something that we strongly believe in as a family. With regards to sustainability, I think, we work in a port. So, and you've seen before that, there are signs that water levels may be rising worldwide. Now, if the water levels, if they are right and these water levels rise, the ports obviously will be affected because, I think there was one map that showed for Malaysia that if we do nothing about the environment, water levels will rise to the point where the beach will be in Bangsar or Damansara Heights. So and that's very far in, I think about 50 kilometers inwards. No, so I mean, are we concerned about that? Of course, as a human being, we should be. We should all be, because if the port is underwater, I can tell you that the whole of Manhattan will be underwater as well, and so will London, and so will Singapore and Hong Kong and many other cities as well. So so I think it's for us, it's a major concern, but I think for everybody else it should be as well. And I think the reason why I'm passionate about this is because I think the rest of the world isn't passionate enough. And I think some people have to fight harder because, the rest of us don't see it yet. And what I'm most passionate about sustainability is about, I think the consumers need to understand that the way that they are consuming right now is killing the world. And I hope that we can convince more consumers to consume more responsibly going forward. So coming back to my slides, I basically have not that many slides, I think about 10 slides here. I'm going to just focus on, how the pandemic has affected us to begin with, and then some of the things that we've done, and as Captain Subra mentioned just now, just a small description of our expansion plans as well. So if I can move to the next slide, please. So I think this was also highlighted in Captain Subra's slides earlier, where you saw that the volumes, the blue color is 2020, the orange color is 2019, and you can see that we had a dip clearly in the second quarter. It grew back very strongly in the third quarter, and I think it would have grown even stronger in the fourth quarter as well, apart from that congestion that Captain Subra mentioned, which happened, in late November, December. The congestion that happened actually, came out of two major problems. One was, you can see the bottom middle slide. You see there, the yard density went up, which means our yard was, the fullest it's ever been in history. We've run this port now for 26 plus years, and we've never seen the yard that full before. So this was something very new to us. And why this happened, I will explain a lot more in the next slide, but a lot of it is due to the fact that the supply chains have gone haywire worldwide, basically. Things are not normal, and, things such as lockdowns and, Brexit even, and shortages left and right. I think these are the kind of things that have caused major disruptions in the supply chain, and this is what's resulted in yard density and dwell times going up dramatically. And I think that's what caused the major issue we had in November, December. Fortunately, as Captain Swan mentioned as well, we worked very closely with shipping lines to make sure that we can help clear out all these cargo quite quickly, and we did so in the first 10 or 12 days of January. And right now we're back to normal, and hopefully, this congestion doesn't come back. But considering that the reason why it happened was because of lockdowns, etc., as countries around us still go into lockdowns, it might happen again, and there's no way we can 100% say that it won't happen again because as a hub in Southeast Asia, we we benefit from our neighbors, but we also have to help our neighbors from time to time. And when they have when they have issues in their place, we are used as a port to try and support them. And I think that's exactly what happened towards the end of last year. At the moment, I think things are easing off in most places, and that's why we can also ease off. But there's no one saying that it can't happen again. We can move to the next slide. So this one is basically just to give everybody an understanding of how the supply chain has been disrupted. I'm sure the other speakers after this can give you more into their portion of it. But basically, lockdowns cause retail to be stopped. For example, I think the worst case of all was the UK, if I'm not mistaken, where they had a lockdown as Brexit was happening. So you had lots of cargo trying to enter the UK to avoid the Brexit increase in tariffs, and then you had a lockdown organized by the government. And what that means is that retail businesses completely shut. And when they shut, what happens is that your warehouses are then full because the cargo isn't moved or the goods are moving to the retail sector. And when the warehouses are full, even if the trucks are still moving, they can't move the cargo out of the ports into those warehouses. And therefore, what happens then is the container yard gets full of containers, and a lot of the goods are also still stored in those containers, so those containers can't move. Right, and this results in berthing delays for vessels, and it leads to longer turnaround times for vessels, and then this reduces shipping capacity as well to a certain extent, and then because the yard is congested, the container turnaround time of the ports are also are affected, and all this will then also affect the fact that you have less containers circulating because they're all stuck somewhere, and because of that effect of the containers being stuck somewhere. There's a huge shortage of containers, and therefore the freight rates are going up because there's a imbalance worldwide, basically. So I think this was, for me, the biggest impact for the shipping perspective that came from the pandemic, apart from the fact that we all had to change the way we behave. So I think, so far, and of course, this is from the port side, of course, from the shipping side, crew members needed to stay on board for longer, etc. But from the port side, I think this is what major disruption that happened for our side. So what do we do because of all of this, and how do we react to the pandemic? That's what I'm going to focus on next, the next 5 slides. If you can move to the next one. So the first thing we did was, of course, focus on our people. And what we made sure we do was we have a policy of no staff layoffs, so no redundancies whatsoever, and no salary cuts, etc. And we try to keep everything as the same as possible, and we try to make sure that no one lost their jobs, because it's a very tough time for everybody as well. Of course, we had to implement work from home, and we came up with a lot of COVID policies very quickly. Some of it even faster than the government. That the government was actually asking us how did we come up with some of these policies, because they wanted to copy it. And the reason why we had to do it ourselves was because when the country went into the first lockdown in March, I think most people were not ready to do so, but we couldn't stop working, and therefore we had to continue working, and we had to come up with our own policies very, very quickly as to how we deal with this. But what we've had to change more recently is actually the attitude towards COVID-19, and I think that's what we've been focusing on for the last, say, 3 to 4 months. And right now, the mantra at the port is that we have to assume that the person next to you has the virus. Right, so and for us, we take social distancing very, very seriously. We take wearing a mask very seriously, and I take it very seriously myself, and make sure that everybody knows how important it is. Because you see, we can't shut down, and therefore we can't take risks we can't be relaxed and take risks, because if we shut down, the whole economy will be affected, and that's why we must make sure that we have to take more precautions than everybody else, and hopefully we get the vaccine soon to make sure that we're not in trouble here. But I think and that's why we had to be the first ones to try and do a lot of these things. Next, please. The next part, of course, is making sure that we are ready for the future. Is of course Capex, and this is the Capex. And the Capex I'm talking about here is all the short-term stuff. Right, so we converted a yard to a container yard because of the excess cargo that was coming in. And of course, we added more ground slots, even for reefer containers. And we're going to invest in a lot of more cranes, which are coming in those schedules that you see below. We have RTGs already delivered, 8 more coming this quarter. And we're going to have key cranes 2 coming in the early of next year, and another 6 probably towards the end of next year. So we're adding a lot of capacity for the future as well. Despite the fact that last year our volume came down slightly, we're still planning, and we're still being supply driven and make sure we're planning for the future. But this is just our short-term one. Our long-term one I will explain in the last slide. And the next slide, please. What was also important during this pandemic was to make sure that our community programs continue, of course, in a more social distance way. But we believe that charity begins at home, and our home is the island of Pulau Indah. And what we wanted to make sure was the people on our island, were safe and were also not hungry. A lot of people, don't realize that there are many people who were left, to their own devices, or they were casual workers and things like that. And when you have a lockdown, they have no means of income, and we started providing them food and making sure they had medical care and things like that, and to make sure that they're also treated and taken care of. What was also crucial is that a lot of them are Aboriginal communities, and we had to make sure that when the government was rolling out a lot of the government support, they were giving all these handouts and things that the government was rolling out. We had to make sure that these people understood how they could get those, because a lot of them didn't know how to get those. A lot of them didn't know that they were around. So so one of the key things that we had to rush out straight away was our support for the community and support for the area around us. We supported the hospitals, and also a lot of the Aboriginal communities to make sure that no one was left behind. Next. Of course, one of the key things that happened in the months of March to May especially was that we had a slowdown. And one of the things that you have in a slowdown is a little bit more time, right? So, and that's when we decided that we were already on a path to digitalize and automate a lot of the things that we're doing. But what we decided to do was then accelerate a lot of them. And right now, and that's actually the one thing that 2020 has given us is a lot more time to try and push this forward. And I think there's a lot more acceptance of these online things because of the social distancing rules, that people are now already easily adapt to these things a lot better right now. So, we're trying to make sure that we're completing all of them this year. The idea is actually to finish all of them by July. And from July onwards, we will no longer have any non-online interactions with our customers. I think that's our goal. And all of it's provided free to all our customers, and to make sure that they can communicate with us directly without having to come here at all. That's our goal. And also encouraging, others to do so as well, because when they interact with us, because I think then it just makes a lot of things smoother. It makes a lot of things easier. We can still social distance, but also I think it adds to the transparency of the supply chain as well. When we do all these things online, there'll be less pilferage, there'll be less runners, there'll be a lot of other things. So I think this is why, at the end of 2020, we reached 98%, and I think we're trying to make sure we reach 100% by the middle of this year. Next slide, please. So another part that we focused on, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, is that sustainability is actually a very key thing for us. We recently got awarded along with Auckland Authority, the APEC award for green ports. On the top right is a vessel that we sponsor to clean up the rivers here, and of course mangrove planting is something that we're looking into. That we do constantly every year. But I think we're trying to take sustainability to another level this year. We set up a sustainability committee at the board level. And we're trying to implement a lot more sustainability plans going forward. And the idea is to come up with actually a sustainability target to be carbon neutral by next year. Now, not that we're going to be carbon neutral by next year, but to have a target by next year. We hope to have a good target that we can achieve. And our idea is actually not just to make the port green, but also to change the energy that we're using to make sure that we're trying to use green energy as well. But despite all of the things that have happened, we're still trying to pursue our long-term expansion plan, which is the next slide. So this is our long-term expansion plan, which is what it's been coined the Westport 2. We're now at CT9, and all the parts that you see there, CT10 to 17, will be part of our expansion plan. And the green and the red parts there will be space for free zones and developed in stages, so we can accommodate more logistics players as well. So this is how we plan to grow and double our capacity. The Capex here is expected to be over 12 billion ringgit, over, of course, a 20 to 30 year time period. And at the moment, we're trying to finalize the concession agreement with the government. And as soon as that's done, we're going to start the reclamation and dredging almost immediately. The first signs of any of these facilities being up will probably only be in 2024, but we need to start moving on that soon so that we can get it ready for 2024. So the Capex I mentioned earlier was all about the short term between now and then, but this is our long-term plans. And this terminal is expected to be a lot more sustainable, number one, and also to be a lot more automated than the current facilities that we have. And this is how we plan to expand going forward. Now, with regards to the crystal ball question, which I know Anthony is going to ask me if I don't answer it. For us, I just had a call with analysts, a few weeks ago, and I projected that for Westports, we expect somewhere between say low single-digit growth this year. It's a bit cautious, but I think we have to be cautious because we don't know all the parameters yet are not very clear. You see a lot of people losing their jobs. You see a lot of people suffering. So at the same time, you think something has to give, but then you see a lot of stimulus packages as well being rolled out by governments. If the US rolls out a $1.9 trillion package, I have no idea how that will affect consumption. And as everyone knows, our business is very much consumption is a big factor in our business. And if consumption suddenly skyrockets because of that $1.9 trillion stimulus, then I think this is going to be even better than what we expected. But we have to be careful that I don't think the pandemic is going away very quickly. I think, for example, travel, I think will go back to normal. And by normal, I mean December 2019 levels, probably only in 2024, in my opinion. So I think life going back to normal the way it was before, I think will be only 3 to 4 years time. But I think we'll slowly see growth in the meantime. The one thing we have seen though in 2020 is that a lot of the decline I think happened in services because people couldn't spend money, going on holidays or eating out at restaurants or going to cinemas. So a lot of that money I think went probably to the stock market, but also to buying goods. So we saw a lot of goods being bought as well. Now how that continues this year, I think the opening up of the economy, I think we'll see some money move back to services, and hopefully that money is coming from the stock market as opposed to coming from goods, because I think goods are what's driving our business forward as well. So in general, I think there will be growth. I don't think it will be a big boom in that sense, because I think if the stimuluses are there to create a boom, then the government shouldn't be spending that kind of money either. So I think it's got to be balanced out. So I think we will have some growth, but I don't think it'll be massive. And why I believe there will still be some growth is because Q2 last year was really, really low, right? So, and I think everybody had a really big low Q2 last year. And I think being that low this year will have to have some impact, positive impact from that angle. So those are my slides. I'm happy to answer questions later. Back to you, Anthony.